You have to accept their own ideas. You have to accept their suggestions. You have to accept and acknowledge that they are better than you, and it's time for you to learn from them. And right now, whatever knowledge I have, whatever understanding I have of the AI, is everything I have learned from my own team. So this is how I think engineers can build great team, and this is how I cracked it. You first have to be very, very good at it yourself. You have to train them properly. You have to delegate and trust, and then you have to accept that your team is better than you. Back in 2021, I was working on a project, and that project was mainly focused on loss prevention. So, if any burglar or anyone who is breaching a boundary comes in, our system could detect their faces and then log them to the owners of that property. So, something like that. Now, I was doing that project for a particular client, and I was the only person working on it. So, I was responsible for the complete architecture of that system. I built the mobile application, I built the cloud infrastructure, I built the web application, the dashboard, the APIs, each and everything. And since, like every other engineer, I was very, very passionate about the whole architecture. I really felt like I was the only one who could figure it out. I was using Hashura for the APIs, I was using Amplify in a very custom manner. I had some Lambda overrides written on the auth provider. I had custom cloud formation templates to support the functionalities which were not supported by AWS Simplify at that time. On the mobile side, I was using Ignite CLI, which is a boilerplate of React Native, and it's very, very opinionated, which means you have to understand the complete structure of the boilerplate to actually start getting the benefits out of it. So I was using this pretty complex and pretty robust, strong tech stack, which I was very, very proud of. And I really felt like, man, I am the only person who has built this whole system, and it will be nearly impossible for anyone else to grab how and why I made some certain decisions and to even be productive on this kind of project. So even though when the project initially came in, I decided to hire a team to get that project done, I ended up building the whole thing and launching it by myself for the client. Almost 2 months later, the project was launched, and now I was thinking that, man, this project is launched. Now, what do? I need to build a team if I want to build a company. So then in July 2021, I decided to start Ripeseed. Long story, you can watch my other videos on that topic. But mainly at that point, I started Ripeseed. 1 month, I kept working alone. I found more clients, kept working on them, delivered their projects. But then I felt like that now is a good time to have more engineers in the company. And like every other engineer, I felt like I could not find anyone who could do what I was doing. I was overestimating my capabilities and underestimating almost everyone else's capability. Is this pride? Is this ego? I don't think so. It's just that almost every engineer feels like the code that they have written, the problem that they have solved, no one else can grab their mindset, or it's really hard to communicate their mindset. But I hired 3 team members and I started training them on the tech stack that the platform was based on. It was Amplify, React Native, AWS, it was Ashura, GraphQL, all of these things. So I think I hardly trained them for 2 or 3 days, and then I gave them the code to just jump on it right away. So they started working on it, they started understanding the code, and those guys were pretty good. So hats off to them. But mainly they started understanding the code, and to my absolute surprise, they were productive within the first week. So all the tech stack that I thought was very, very complicated, that only I could understand, all the engineers that I hired were productive on that exact project within the first week. So that shattered my belief that, okay, if there is something which seems very, very complex and I believe that only I can do it, it's completely wrong. If I just do a good enough job of explaining that, of training the people the right way, then they can start becoming productive as well. And at that time, if I could not show enough courage to onboard more engineers on the project, then I don't think I would have been able to build a team of engineers and build this company this far. Now, why I'm telling you this story? Because this is the same problem that almost every engineer faces whenever they're trying to build a team. It's really, really hard for them to trust that anyone else can do what they can do, and it's really, really hard for them to trust anyone or delegate work to others in a way that can get the stuff done. Most of the time, people delegate the wrong way. And the wrong way means they only delegate the part that they think is very, very easy and they keep the hardest part to themselves. That way, they can never get out of the loop. They can just keep working, and they will always be that key person in that project, which will be a bottleneck to scalability. As an engineer, if you want to build your team, you have to do this. First, you have to be very, very good at what you do. If you don't do that, then no one else would like to work under you. Good engineers like working under good engineers. And I talked about it in very detail in this LinkedIn post of mine. So first thing, you have to be a very, very good engineer. If you are trying to build a company, then in the early days, your company's core competency will revolve around your own competency. Okay, so you have to make sure that you are very, very good at that, and for that you have to put in the hard work of being good at something like that. And again, this advice only applies to engineers who are trying to build a company. If you are a business person who's trying to build a company, you don't necessarily need to be good at engineering yourself. So if you are very good at something, then people would love to work with you. People would love to be a part of your team, so they can increase their own skill set, so they can expand their own capabilities. So you have to make sure that people can look up to you. And that brings us to the next part, which is you have to train people on the complex things and not just the bare minimums, not just the bare basics. Like I just told you, in the early days, I trained the team directly on AWS. I trained the team on Lambda functions, Hashura, CloudFormation, infrastructure as code, all of these things which early stage engineers don't get the chance to work on. Early stage engineers are just left with development on front end, UI development, sometimes testing. They don't get the chance to work on complex technical stuff, which you can give them the opportunity for. If you are building a team and you are in the early stage, you have a bunch of experience, you have a bunch of knowledge. So anyone who is joining you in the early days should have some added benefit. They should be able to learn things which they would have not been able to learn anywhere else they go. In my case, my edge was AWS. I was very, very passionate about AWS and cloud and cloud formation, infrastructure as code. So I taught these things to everyone in the early team. So train. You have to train the people on complex things and be patient with them. Sooner or later, and hopefully very, very sooner, they can start becoming productive on those things which you considered complex. Next, delegate and trust. You can't do one without the other. You have to give the responsibility of delivering complex features to those team members, to your team members, and then you have to trust that they can deliver that. If you just always stay on top of them, and if they feel like whatever they are doing is not going to be pushed, is not going to be released, and you are going to just redo it every time, then they will never have the feeling of ownership. They will never feel like their work is ever going to be published or is ever going to mean anything. So you have to delegate, and then you have to trust what they do. If they make a mistake, then you have to be there to help them out, but let them fix it instead of just you jumping in every time and fixing everything for them. And then comes the final stage, which is acceptance. You have to accept their own ideas. You have to accept their suggestions. Because ultimately, when you start building your company, when you start building your team, there comes a time when you don't have enough time to jump into the technicalities. At that stage, your team will be ultimately better than you in most of the things. At that stage, you have to accept. You have to accept and acknowledge that they are better than you, and it's time for you to learn from them. That will make it a lot easier for you and your team to work in a more collaborative manner. Because when RiveSeed started, I was very much hands-on involved in the projects in the early few months, or at least in the early year and a half. But after that, I started getting more and more hands off, and I was focused more towards business, sales, building a brand image, and just looking over the projects from a high level because there were so many projects going on. So at that stage, I could not keep myself up to date by being hands on with a lot of technologies. And that is when AI came in. AI jumped into the scene at the end of 2022. And at that time, I was not actually hands on involved in most of the projects, but my team was. My team delivered the first AI project at the end of 2022, and it blew up for us. The whole year of 2023 and now the whole year of 2024. We have done so many AI projects. We have launched our own AI assistant as an open source project. We are launching our own small AI products as well. And all of that was done in these past 2 years when I was not very much hands on involved. If I was resistant that we as a company will only do something which I am capable of, and if I wouldn't trust my team to deliver projects, then we wouldn't have been able to add this capability in the team. And right now, whatever knowledge I have, whatever understanding I have of the AI is everything I have learned from my own team. We discuss projects daily, we have a discussion, we brainstorm ideas, and that is how I understood what all of these AI jargons mean. So this is how I think engineers can build great team, and this is how I cracked it. You first have to be very, very good at it yourself. You have to train them properly. You have to delegate and trust, and then you have to accept that your team is better than you. My name is Hashir Baig. I'm a software engineer turned founder. We build AI products for startups and integrate AI into existing workflows of businesses to help them improve their productivity. If you like working with us, drop me a message on LinkedIn. And if there is anything I can help you out with, if you need my guidance, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to contact me. Thank you.